Hi crafty friends, this is Chelsea and today I have some layouts for you that are bright, bold, summery designs, and I'm going to be using a lot of different triangles on my layouts as a really fun design element to help draw your eye into the pages. I'm using the beautiful Celebratory Sips collection from Stampin Up. You can see it has fun and bright patterns and colors. We have some tone-on-tone designs. These are just the leftover scraps from my layout, so that's why you're not seeing full sheets. But I really like the mix of papers in here. You can see there is some focus on like fun drinks and stuff, but there's enough other patterns too, so you can definitely do general summer. I'm doing a mix of both on my pages. There is one more pattern, but I've used almost all of it. This one with the fruit on one side and the Secret Sea kind of tone-on-tone pattern on the other side. That was definitely one of my favorites, and I did use most of it. So if you've never used one of my guides before, they do come with all the cutting diagrams, photos, tips and tricks that you will need to create these layouts. You can see I have some stamping here as well as stickers. This collection does have a matching sticker sheet, which I used almost the entire thing. And we are going to be fitting in quite a few photos on here. This one alone fits in 11 photos. So I wanted to have this so that the strong kind of arrow design is bringing your eyes into this main row. I also matted it on the darker color, the Secret Sea. So it really makes these photos the star of the page and is going to draw your eye right in here. So these are going to be my main photos. And then I'm going to use these smaller 2x2 spots for all my little supporting photos or little details. In the guide, I will also include directions on how to measure out where to put your strips so that you get a perfect triangle design here. And if you would like to get your hands on this guide, if you're in Canada, you can place an $80 order before tax and shipping on my Stampin' Up website, or you can join my Crafty Hearts team and get all of my guides and my downline, Julie Carrier, all of her guides for free. And if you're outside of Canada, you can buy the guide at the link down in the description box or over at my website, chelseavorosmarty.com. So I did bring in a little bit of stamping on here because I wanted to have some florals and just make this more general summer, not so much focus on the drinks aspect of the paper collection for this layout. So I have the Impressions of Bloom, and this is a 2-step stamping set. So you have a base and a detail layer for each of the flowers, the leaf, the flower centers. And this set also has some really nice dies if you get the bundle. These ones also offer, you can cut paper with this little detail layer if you don't want to stamp. And then die cut, you can insert this little piece right here and it'll give you all these really pretty little detail kind of cut lines onto your flowers. And then you could just use regular cardstock if you don't want to do the stamping. So same for the leaves here. We have a nice little oval shape in here. And then I did use quite a bit of this leaf and then some of these leaves as well. And then you do have some flowers that are standalone as well. This set is like chock full of options for making all kinds of floral bouquets. And I am going to show you the 2-step stamping and some of the combinations that I did on my page. So I've gone ahead and mounted these on blocks. I have some scrap paper as well as my white cardstock. The colors I used are Daffodil Delight, Timid Tiger, and Strawberry Slush. Those are all colors found in this paper collection. And I used the medium flower and the smaller flower on this one, as well as the smaller flower centers. I'm going to start off with Strawberry Slush. And I like to stamp the detail layer first because I find it's a little bit easier to help line things up. So I'm going to do that first, just full strength, ink it up and stamp it. And then I'm going to use a lighter version to fill this in. So I'm just going to stamp off and then I'm going to line this up. And I find it easier to line up if I stamp that darker layer first, and I seem to get more accurate designs. So it gave me a matching kind of lighter pink. And then I'm gonna grab Timid Tiger to do the center of my flower. You could go with yellow if you want to do that. I'll show you that on a different flower. So for the flower center, I'm gonna take the detail layer. It kind of has like a speckly look to it. I'm gonna stamp that in the Timid Tiger and then just stamp that in the middle. And then I'm gonna grab the Daffodil Delight and fill this in. So there is our flower. Now it's super easy to cut out because you just grab your coordinating die, line it up and cut it out on your die cutting machine. I typically like to washi tape mine in place, especially if I'm trying to die cut more than one thing at a time. I'm gonna come in really close so you can see that really nice detail on these flowers. The ones in the background here are stickers from the sticker sheet, and then I have the die cut leaves clustered together with them there. The dots on here are the holographic resin dots, and they are gorgeous. Definitely a beautiful addition that catches the light so nicely. I'm gonna clean this off and then we can keep on going. Now for the actual design itself, I wanted to give you just a little sample of how to put this together. I definitely recommend laying out all your pieces before you get started because that will really help you make sure that everything is even and where you want it to be. But this is the general idea. Have the bottom one going up the highest and then this top one just resting on it like that. And then the next one like that. And basically you just keep going and layering and they get smaller and smaller. I always like my strips to be a little bit longer than what they need to be because then I can just flip my page over, cut off any excess, and I don't get to the end and realize that it was too short and I have white patches showing. That's definitely not what we want. And I did, when I got to the smallest one, I just used a square and then cut off whatever was extra because I wanted to fill that right in. You could also leave some white space. So maybe you only wanted to use 3 strips. You could do your 3 strips and leave the white section in the middle. That would look really cool too if you want to keep it a bit simpler and maybe not have quite so many patterns. I did try and balance it with using the calmer patterns, the more tone on tone, and then interspersing it with a little bit more of the bright multicolored patterns. I was trying to stay away from all of the drinks and things, so I went for the patterns that could be more just general summer. And I really love this small floral pattern and it has all the colors in it. So I end up using quite a bit of that on this layout. Now let's go ahead and have a look at the next set of pages. So this one also uses triangles, just in a little bit different design. And I love the bold impact that these make on the layout and how it kind of takes your eye around the page and just kind of creates this little loop of your eye just kind of going right around the page. And it's just a really fun accent to use a little bit different shape. I usually use a lot of rectangles and it's nice to switch it up and use some triangles and create some different patterns on your pages. Now, depending on what patterns you use, you could make this bolder or a little bit less bold. You could also use cardstock for this, but by layering together these triangles, they really make some strong arrows that point your eye in a specific direction. You can see too, I've layered together some popped up stickers, stickers that are down flat, die cuts, and then all of these cups are cut from the pattern paper. This one back here is a sticker as well, which makes things super fast and easy. And we have some opportunities for some pretty large photos. So I know sometimes there's not enough spots for 4x6 photos, but I was able to fit 3 on here as well as 3 3x4s. I should mention, typically on my layouts, I like to make my spots the actual size, so like 3x4 or 4x6 to maximize paper use. In the guide, I will mark if it's a trimmed photo or if it's a full size 4x6, 3x4, whatever. So here the 3x4s have been trimmed down to fit. And then on these ones, I actually used the full size 4x6s. Those details will be included in the guide for you to see, as well as placement measurements of how far in things are from the edge so that you don't have to fuss around with placement. Now on here, I did not leave a specific spot for journaling. You could put in a few lines here or there, maybe rearrange your leaves so you have more space over here. You can also take one of your photo spots and make that a journaling spot. Another thing that I really like to do is actually put my journaling on a photo. If I have a photo that has sort of a blank area, I will digitally put my journaling right on my photo, and then it doesn't take up any extra space on my layout. So it just kind of depends on what will work best for you. If you have a lot to say or not, if just a couple lines here or there is enough for you, or if you have a big story to tell. I've used this photo mat here like a little ledge, and I've just put my cups and things on top of it there. You can see those beautiful dots. They're just so shiny. And our other little cluster here in the corner. Now, I know not everybody is a fan of fussy cutting, which is how I got all of these cups. So I basically just went into this pattern paper, found a design that I wanted, and I like to rough cut it out from the page first, just to make it a little bit easier to handle, and then I don't have the weight of a full piece of paper kind of dragging me down. And I like to leave a little white border. You can cut right on the line, but I find leaving a little white border is a little bit more forgiving if you accidentally, aren't cutting completely straight. I try and hold my scissors straight, and then I move my paper to help get some nice smooth cutting. These designs are kind of a watercolor style, so they aren't necessarily smooth and crisp either. So I find it pretty forgiving to cut out because your cutting doesn't have to be perfect, because the images themselves are not super uniform and perfect. Now, if you really don't want a fussy cut, I have another idea for you. There is a coordinating Stampin' die set that goes along with this collection called Cheers and Sips. And you can see it comes with some really awesome stamps that you can make all kinds of drinks. They also have the tall glass and the short glass. You got an olive, all different kinds of like berries and cherry and mint, all the things. And then there's also the die set. So the dies, so for these two cups, they will cut out the cups from the paper as well. So you could cut out these plain cups. It won't do the ones that have things coming out the top of them because they're just designed for the basic shapes. So you can cut those out, and then you could stamp and die cut your accessories, whatever you want, like your strawberry or your lemon, and you can go ahead and add them that way. And that might be a little bit more up your street if you really don't like fussy cutting. There's also this fun pattern design, which you can put on the inside of the cups as well. It's nice to have options because everybody has different things that they like to do. So let's go ahead and have a little play and try out just stamping and watercoloring our own drinks. Fun thing about that is you can make them any color you want and add on any of the extras that you want. You can also use these stamps to add to these ones as well. Since a lot of these are plain, you could add in some fruit to them. You could do some toppers for them. Dug into my stash, found some, this is actually cold press watercolor paper, so it's a little bit more textured. I flipped it over to the smoother side. A lot of times cold press has like a rougher side and a smoother side. I'm using the smoother side here, and I'm gonna go ahead and stamp out my glasses. Whatever ink you choose, you wanna make sure that it is going to be waterproof, and you wanna make sure it's dry before you get started adding any water to it. Sometimes these thinner lines can kind of spread if you press too hard. So you're better off to just press and hold and let the ink soak into the paper rather than really trying to smash it down on there. I am using pressure, but I'm not pushing super hard. And if you don't want the black line, you could go for a softer line. Like in the pattern paper, they have the very light, it looks like cloud cover, very light bluish gray, this color that the lines are made of. So if you'd rather do that so you don't have a harsh black line, you can definitely do that. I just thought this would be easier for you guys to see. Okay, I did hit this with a little bit of heat, and hopefully it is dry enough that I can move on. I'm just squeezing together my strawberry slush so I can get some color in the lid. You could also use watercolor paints for this. I'm using a water brush. You could use just a jar of water with a paintbrush. And I'm going to lay down some water first and just kind of drop my color into it. And you can see how that will just kind of spread. Put your brush down where you want it the darkest. Go around, just blend a little bit closer to the line. You can leave a little bit of a white gap if you want. That will help it look a little bit more painterly and kind of add the curve of the glass. If you don't go right up to the edge, it'll make it look a little bit more curved. And if you notice in the actual pattern paper, that is how those ones look as well. If you are painting your own, have a look at what's on the pattern paper because it will give you all kinds of ideas. So there's what that one looks like. Now we could do all kinds of things. We could stamp ice cubes in here. We could add strawberry. You could put fruit down in the bottom, but you're going to want to let this dry first before you start stamping on top of it. You can create your little umbrella. Let's do another combination over here and let's maybe mix a couple colors. So I'm going to use the Daffodil Delight. You really got to squeeze these to get that color onto the lid. I'm going to go in and put down my water. You can just wipe off your water brush on a paper towel, your pants, you know, whatever works for you. And now I'm going to add my yellow in on this side because I think I kind of want them to mix and mingle in the middle. So I'll add my pink down here. I have some scrap paper off to the side here that I'm just scribbling my pen onto. I want to add a little bit more water. You are going to get the best results if you use watercolor paper because the color doesn't soak in as quickly and will tend to just kind of stay and float around on top of the paper and mix and create this beautiful watercolor look by using this paper. If when you do it, you find that your ink just like sinks right into your paper, try using a different paper because I think you'll be happier with the results. So there you go. There are so many different ways you could do this. And I think I would probably switch out the color and use like a light gray for stamping my outsides if I wanted it to match the pattern paper. But just for demonstration purposes, I hope that gives you some ideas. For my third layout, this pattern was probably the first one in this pack that caught my eye. I love a good rainbow and I love watercolor. So when I saw this piece that had all these watercolor swatches in kind of a rainbow pattern, I knew I had to incorporate it somehow and I wanted to use all of that paper and not have it just be a small piece. It's quite a large design and I think it makes a really big impact. And because there's so many colors on here, I think it'll make it really easy to find photos to match with it as well. So let's have a little close-up look here. I have more of the sticker sheet, more of the die cuts, and then I've brought in a sticker strip and just chopped it up so that it would fit all the way down. The cheers is actually a custom title piece that I created in the workshop. And it is fussy cut, but there is an option where you can use it not fussy cut. Pretty big design, so it made it fairly easy to cut out with scissors. And I just love how beautiful and scripty the font is. You can see I have journaling over here, and I'm going to show you the set that I used for that in just 1 second. I have more of the die cuts, more of the fussy cut glasses. And then here on the second layout, we've got a nice little kind of grid of photos. And here I added another sticker onto one of the fussy cut glasses and another couple stickers from the sticker sheet. This was a really fun layout to pull together. You may have noticed on the first layout and on this layout, I used the same set for my journaling. This is called Just a Note. It's a brand new set that just launched this month. And you get the journaling lines, which I still have mounted on a block because I've been making a few of these. And then you get the little notebook page die. So it cuts it out to look like a little notebook. And I love the look of stacking those together. So doing my journaling one on white, stamping the lines, and then cutting just the die out of one of the coordinating papers and stacking those together just to make it pop since I do have white backgrounds. This way it just makes them stand out a little bit more. And I didn't end up using any of these fun accessories, but I definitely will going forward. We have all these little types of paper clips. Some of them have little stitching detail on them. We have this one over here that has the handles and I think these are called bull clips, and you can actually hook these little ends right into those little divots there. So a really fun set. Definitely going to be using this for back to school, but it can work for so many different types of layouts, and I love having journaling spots like this stamped and ready to go so I can just grab and add to a layout. If you've never done a big diagonal cut like I did on this layout, that is one sheet of paper, and the best thing to do is to grab a self-healing mat. This is my Versamat. Any kind of cutting surface that is going to protect your desk will work. And then you're going to want to take your paper. This is how I had mine positioned. And it really helps if you have a longer ruler. This is like a quilting ruler. Your typical 12-inch rulers don't work as well because you want to go from corner to corner. And then I just took my time and lined up the edge of my ruler with the very points of my layouts. And then I like to use just like a regular cutting knife. Hold your ruler really steady and then just cut. And usually I find it takes me a couple of passes to cut all the way through. But since this won't fit in most trimmers, that is the easiest way to do that diagonal cut. I hope you enjoyed seeing all of these ideas, and if you would like to grab that guide, the link is down below, or you can place an order on my website if you are in Canada. If you want to check out my other workshop guides, you can find those on this playlist here and also linked down below or on my website at chelseavorosmarty.com. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again soon with another video.